Hello and welcome to our SAT prep video on reviewing practice test number 3. We are going to start with the non-calculator section, and the first question we're going to look at here is number 7. So number 7, you've got this t-chart, this table of values for a polynomial. So we know we have a polynomial, okay? And we've got some values of x, some values of f of x, and we want to know which one will be a factor, okay? So think back to polynomials. When you have these factors, x, plus a number, or you could have like x minus a number, x plus a number, and you could have many different factors, let's say, okay? It's a factor when this equals 0. All right, so essentially we want to know what number, so what number do we plug in to get an output of 0? Well, if you look at your table of values, that would be right here. You can see how you're plugging in x equals 4. So x equals 4. So one of the factors must be x minus 4 as a factor. Okay, because if I plug in 4 there, I would get 0. So the factor is x minus 4. So your answer is letter C. Common error for people would be to select this first one. That is not a factor. That would be what we call a y-intercept, right, when x is 0. Okay, the next one we're going to go over is actually number 8 right below it. So in this case, it says we have a line, y equals kx plus 4. K is a constant. Remember, k is essentially your slope. Okay, this is your slope. This is in y equals mx plus b form, if you remember y equals mx plus b. Okay. It says, what is the slope of the line in terms of c and d? Okay, well, we know that we have a y-intercept. So let me change colors here real quick. We have a y-intercept. So this is your y-intercept. So we have this point, 0, 4, and we have this point, c comma d. Okay, and we want to calculate what k is. Well, k would be the slope. And that's what's asking us right here, right? It's asking us for the slope. So you would do, for example, d minus 4 over c minus 0. So that would be d minus 4 over c. Okay, so our answer there is going to be letter A. Again, we have to remember slope formula. I should maybe jump the gun on this. So slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I would maybe call this x1 y1, x2 y2. Okay, so our answer there is letter A. Just a really different way of asking you essentially for slope. All right, let's keep this ball rolling here. We're going to take a look at number 9 is our next one. Okay, so let's look at number 9 here. We have a system of equations, as it says. K is a constant. For what value of K will the system have no solution? Okay, so a system will have no solution when you get a false statement. Okay, so let's think about what that means. And you've done systems a million times back in algebra, in your algebra days, but you would get something like 0 equals a number. That would be a false statement. So look at our system here up top. Okay, I've got this system right here. And if we want to get 0 equals a number, that means that we need to get our x's and y's to cancel. So we want to have x's and y's cancel. Okay, well, if you look at your y's, you would multiply your first equation by, let's say, -5, and your second equation by 3, because then I would get a positive 15y and a negative 15y. So let's try that. So -5kx plus 15y equals -20. My other equation, I would get 12x minus 15y equals 21. Okay, if I add those down, look at what you've got here. You're going to have, in this case, we're going to have -5kx plus 12x. These are going to be, this is going to cancel out to be 0, so equals 1. Okay, so now we got to think about how will we get this to equal 0 on the left side? Well, if these two were the same coefficient, then these like terms would cancel. So I need -5, I should use a different color, sorry about that. I need -5k to equal 12. So k equals -12 over 5. So our answer there is going to be Okay, so what we want is, we want this left side to equal 0, because we're going to get then 0 equals some number, 0 equals 1, which will be a false statement. So negative 5kx plus 12x equals 0, so negative 5kx equals negative 12x. So if we solve for k now, we're going to get k equals, well, we're going to have negative 12x over 5x. Negative 5x would get me 12 over 5. So my answer is letter A. Okay. There's other ways you could solve this problem, but I think this is a good way to look at it, because if we know it has no solution, we know we want to get a false statement, like 0 equals a number essentially. Our x's and y's have to cancel, and we're going to get a false statement then. All right, let's try number 10. Oops, sorry, number 10 right here. So in this case, we have xy plane, the parabola, okay, intersects the line with the equation y equals 25 at what 2 points? Okay, so in this case, if they intersect, okay, that means that these two are equal. So like y equals 25 and y equals x minus 11 squared. These are going to be set equal to each other. So when two functions intersect, that means they equal each other. Okay, so 25 equals x minus 11 squared. Okay, so we can solve this by square rooting. So plus or minus 5 over here equals x minus 11. We're solving for x. Okay, and from there I can add this over, right? So I'm going to get 11 plus or minus 5 equals x. So x equals 16 and 6. Okay, I'm solving for my x value, and we know my y value. We know that y equals 25. So we've got the coordinates of 16, 25, and 6, 25. Okay, and if you think about it, those two things are on the same, have the same y value. So if I want to draw, you know, this axis, here's 25, here's 6, and let's say here's 16. What's the distance between them, right? The distance is going to be 10. So my answer is 10. You could use distance formula if you want to, but not really necessary because these have the same y value. It'd be the same if like they had the same x value. I could draw a quick sketch and find the distance between them. There's a horizontal line or a vertical line. In this case, it's a horizontal line. All right, so we're going to look at number 12 is our next one. Another quadratic situation. So we have this quadratic. Okay, we know that a is not 0. So a is 1, 2, 3, whatever, some negative number. It doesn't matter, just not 0. And the parabola has vertex CD. Which of the following is equal to D? So we know, if you think about a parabola, so we're going to have our vertex is going to be in the middle of the x-intercepts in this case. So we can see our equation has x-intercepts or zeros. Okay, it's the same thing. So zeros at x equals 2 and negative 4. So if I drew a little sketch here, here's negative 4, here's 2. My parabola is going to probably, more than likely open up, doesn't matter up or down. And my vertex is going to be right in the middle. So what number is between these two? I'm going from negative 4 to 2. Think about a number line. Negative 1 is right in the middle, because I would go 3 to the right, 3 to the left. So this is an x value of negative 1. So the x value of the vertex is x equals negative 1. Okay, well, find the y value then. So y equals a times negative 1 minus 2, negative 1 plus 4. Right, I can plug that back in to find the y value of the vertex, which is what D is. So D is the y value of the vertex. So y equals is going to be a times negative 3 times 3, so negative 9a. So our answer there is letter A. Okay. So really, again, very interesting question on quadratics. Probably not something you've done before, but you've covered these concepts. It's just in a unique way that they're asking you. Okay, so we had to use some x-intercept idea there. Okay, up next we've got number 13. So number 13 says you've got this equation. Okay. A is a constant. What is the value of A? All right, and this is just a really kind of heavy, just pure algebra problem. You can see that this fraction, if I add it over here, they're going to have common denominators, so I can add them together. So I'd have like 24 x squared plus 25x minus 47 plus 53 on top over ax minus 2. Because again, those two fractions would have common denominators, and I'm adding it over because it has a negative sign there. Equals negative 8x minus 3. Okay. Now what I would do is I would take this and I would multiply it to the other side. So I would get like ax minus 2 over here. Okay, so now on the left, I'm going to have 24x squared plus 25x plus 6. And on the right side, I'm going to have negative 8x minus 3 times ax minus 2. And yes, you very well could spend all your time, if you want, you can spend much time multiplying the right side out. But think about how multiplying works, foiling, where we'd have to FOIL this necessarily to kind of get this simplified, or using distributive property. But we know this 24x squared is going to be equal to whatever these two multiplied together are. If I multiply those two, so 24x squared equals negative 8ax squared, which means 24 equals negative 8a. So a equals negative 3. And that would be our solution, letter B. Okay? So try to, in that case, try to be a little savvy with knowing how that multiplication is going to work out on the right without going through all the multiplication, because that could bog you down and take a bunch of time. Which of the following are solutions? And this goes back to good old quadratic formula. So yes, you do have to know it. It could very well come up. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And because this is non-calculator, I would recommend simplifying this, dividing everything by 3. So x squared plus 4x plus 2 equals 0. Okay, so there's a 1 here. So this is your a, this is your b, this is your c. And you literally just plug everything in. So negative 4 plus or minus b squared, that would be 16 minus 4ac. So times 1, I put an a there, this should be a times 1, times 2 over 2 times a, which is 1. Okay, so we're going to get negative 4 plus or minus square root of 8 over 2. This is negative 4 plus or minus 2 root 2 over 2. And now we can reduce. You can't reduce the 2 inside the radical. Okay, but the other ones we can reduce because they all have a common multiple of 2. All right, and you can see your final answer there again is going to be letter A. So good old quadratic formula coming back, along with we have to also be able to simplify the radicals, because again, this is all non-calculator allowed problems. All right, we got 2 questions left here. We've got number 17. These are in the calculator allowed. I'm sorry, non-calculator allowed still, but the free response. So we're going to look at 17 in this case. So anytime, this goes back to just review of fractions and equations, so you want to multiply by the least common denominator. Okay, that's my fastest way to get rid of all of the fractions. In this case, it's going to be 36. So what you do is you go through each one. So like if I do 36 times this first fraction, okay, the 36 and the 9 are going to reduce to a 4, a multiple of 4 still. So I'm going to get 4 times 7x. Okay, and then if I go to the next one, take this one here, minus, again, the 36 and the 9 are going to reduce to a 4. So I'm going to have 4 times 4x again, because you've got this like 7x here and this 4x here. And then you just keep going through and you keep doing that process. So equals 36 times a fourth is 9, plus over here 36 times 5 over 12. Well, the 36 and the 12 are going to reduce. I'm going to have a 3 left, so it's 3 times 5. Okay, so that gives us 28x minus 16x equals 24. Okay, because I'm going to get 9 plus 15. And then now it's not a terribly hard equation to solve, right? So it's just that trick of multiplying by the LCD. So 12x equals 24, so x equals 2. And that would be our grid in response. We would grid in a 2. All right, last one for this video. Number 18. Okay, so for 18, get this out of our way here. For 18, it says we have 2 isosceles triangles shown above. We know that 180 minus z equals 2y, and y equals 75. what is the value of x? Okay, so let's go ahead and use this information, right? I can use this to solve for y, solve for z, that is. So I just plug that right in. So 180 minus z equals 150. So z equals 30. Okay, well, if we know that this is 30, so let's just take this triangle. We don't need this whole picture. The picture actually just makes it way more confusing. Make this even bigger. So I'm just going to take this triangle right here. Okay, it makes it way more confusing than it needs to be. Take this triangle. Okay, I'll leave this line, this part here. So we now know that this is 30. And if this is isosceles, okay, that means that these two angles that are remaining, this angle and this angle, are going to be congruent. So let's call them a different variable. Let's call it w and w. Okay, so we know for a fact that 30 plus 2w equals 180 because that's a triangle. The angles add up to 180. So w is going to be equal to, so 2w, let's just start here. Okay, so 2w equals 150, w equals 75. All right, and because of that, because w is 75, then we know that this angle right here, x degrees, these two form a straight line, right? So this is going to be 180 minus 75 because they form a straight angle. So that would be 105. So 105 degrees is our final answer. All right, that's going to be it for this video on going over the non-calculator questions from practice test 2. Thank you very much for watching, and be on the lookout for the video going over the calculator questions coming up next.